welcome to Love and Life's Journey. I'm Chantel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today I have 5 budget-friendly spring DIYs that I'm bringing to you. So let's jump in and get started. For this project I will be using these 2 pallet signs from Dollar Tree, and in fact all of the supplies in today's video are from Dollar Tree. I'll also be using these 2 coasters that I found in the kitchen section, some spring florals, and also this gray and white cotton twine. Going to remove the label off of the back. I love how easy these come off because usually they do not come off very easily without using some heat or something. So then I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper and just go over each of the pallet signs to kind of clean them up and smooth them out. Next I'm going to paint my signs using this gray color. This is just acrylic craft paint, and I know you're probably thinking gray is not a very spring-like color, but hang with me because this is gonna work out just fine. So I'm just giving the palette a couple of coats of the gray paint, and I'm painting front and back and everywhere in between. So now I am using some Waverly chalk paint in the color Ivory, and I am dry brushing on the front of my pallet sign just to tone it down and give it a little bit more of that farmhouse worn look. Next I'm going to take the coaster and the gray and white cotton twine, and I am going to wrap the cotton twine around the edge all the way around the coaster, just using some hot glue to secure that as I go all the way around. And I went around this 3 times just to cover the edge of the coaster and kind of give it a little bit of a framed look. And I did this on both of the coasters. Next I'm going to glue my coaster to the center of the pallet sign. I'm going to use some E6000 on this because the coaster is fairly heavy, and then I'll also use some of the hot glue. I like to use Gorilla Glue sticks in my hot glue gun just because they're a little bit stronger of a hold, and so that's what I'm using. And the combination of the E6000 and those Gorilla Glue sticks are really going to hold this in place. Originally I thought I would embellish these with a few of these little spring flowers, but the more I played with them and kind of experimented with where I'd want to put them, the more I realized I didn't like them on here, and I really just liked the simplicity of the signs without the florals. So I decided just to leave them as is and not add any florals to it. But you can embellish this any way you want to and just make it your own. So here's what the set looks like finished with no floral embellishments or anything, and I really like the simplicity of this, and I think the gray is really pretty with that pink and perfect for spring. Today's video is part of Heidi Sonboul's Friend Friday Hop, and if you don't know what a hop is, it just means that several of us creators are participating, and in the description box of my video I will put the link to the next person's video, and then you will hop from their video to the next person and just go all the way around until you have seen all of the videos in the Friend Friday Hop. So be sure to check out that link in the description box below after you finish watching my video. This next project is super simple. For this you will need one of these hanging terrarium planters from Dollar Tree, some type of moss. I'm using some reindeer moss that I picked up at Dollar Tree, I'll also be using one of these moss bunnies from the Easter section, and I'll be using some of these cherry blossoms from this floral stem. And I'll be using some pink sheer ribbon. You can use any type of ribbon or twine that you want to hang this with. So there are two styles of the bunnies that come in that package of moss bunnies. I'm going to be using the taller one so that it stands up a little bit higher in the terrarium. And I'm going to be securing that to the bottom just using some hot glue. I'm putting the bunny right in the center. Then I'm going to fill in around the bunny with some of the moss, and I'm not gluing the moss in or anything. I'm just poking it back in around the bunny and around the front. And the little hole in the side works really great to use a stick or something to kind of move the moss around to get it where you want it. Then I'm just going to snip off some of these little cherry blossom flowers, and I am leaving the stems a little bit longer on some of them because I want them to kind of stand up around the bunny or kind of behind the bunny. So I'm using the stems to kind of hold them in place, and I'm just going to place those inside with the bunny. Then I'm going to cut a piece of ribbon to use as a hanger, and I'll just put that through the hole in the top of the planter and tie it off, and this project is finished. So along with today's Friend Friday Hop, we are doing a giveaway. We are giving away a $100 Amazon gift card. The way you enter the drawing is to comment on my video and then go to the next person's video, the link is in my description box, and watch their video and comment on it, and then continue all around the hop and make sure that you leave a comment on every person's video, and that will enter you into the drawing for the $100 Amazon gift card. You have until midnight Eastern Time on February 9th to complete this, and we will be drawing the winner on February 10th. And we will be announcing the winner on our community tabs, so make sure you are watching for that announcement. For this next project, I will be using one of these terracotta pots. They come in a 2-pack from Dollar Tree. I'll be using a few rocks to use as weight in the bottom of my pot. I'm using a little bit of floral foam. I'm also going to be using this wired jute twine from Dollar Tree, as well as this little Easter berry garland, and that's the only thing I think I'm using that's not from Dollar Tree. I think I got that at Hobby Lobby. And then I'll be using some green moss and some little pink florals. Whenever I'm going to paint a terracotta pot, I like to spray it with a sealer, and this helps it not soak up the paint so much, so you use less paint. Once that sealer is dry, I am going to paint my pot, and I am painting the bottom of the pot this kind of sagey green color, and it's just an acrylic craft paint that I had on hand. And then I'm going to be painting the rim of the pot in the ivory colored chalk paint. If you are new to my channel and you're coming over from one of the other channels on the hop, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. I would love to have you stick around and subscribe. I do a lot of Dollar Tree DIYs and budget-friendly DIYs, and every once in a while I throw in a vlog or some other type of video, but mostly it's DIYs here. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell and set your notifications so that YouTube will notify you when I upload new videos. So now I'm taking some of the ivory paint and dry brushing that onto the green paint just to soften that up again and give it a little bit of a worn look. And then I'm going to take a dark brown acrylic paint, or actually this is a chalk paint, and I'm going to do the same thing with the dry brushing on the white part of the pot, because the white looks so like stark and new compared to that green that I have kind of distressed. So I want to add a little bit of distressing to the top of the pot as well, so that it all is cohesive. I did also add a little bit of the brown on the green section of the pot, but just a very little bit. And if you are a newer crafter, dry brushing just means that you put a very small amount of paint on your brush. Usually the brush is dry, and then you lightly brush it across your project just to leave little remnants of paint to give it that kind of streaked look. I'm going to finish preparing my pot by adding some of those rocks in the bottom for a little bit of weight, and then I'm going to put my floral foam on the top of that, and I want the floral foam to sit just a little bit below the rim of the pot. Next, I'm going to take my wired twine, and if you can't find this, you can use any type of heavy wire, and you could even wrap twine around a wire to get the twine look, but if you're able to find the wired twine at Dollar Tree, then that will save you some steps. So I am taking the wired twine and I am doubling it, so I have two strands, and I am twisting it together just to make a thicker piece. So basically I used the whole roll, I cut it in half, I put those two pieces together and twisted them together. Then starting in the center of my piece, I am going to start forming the shape of a heart. And you just have to work with this to kind of get your heart even and the shape that you want, but since the wire twine is very easy to work with, this is not hard. It just takes a little bit of patience. And then when I'm satisfied with my heart, and just so you know, it doesn't have to be perfect, but once it is the shape that you like, then I'm taking the ends and twisting this. So you want to leave some at the bottom so that you will have basically like a stem, because we're making kind of like a topiary. So I twist those together so I have a nice thick stem. And then I'm going to use a pair of wire cutters and just snip off the end. So I would say I left about 6 inches or so at the bottom of my heart. And of course part of that is going to be stuck down into the floral foam. So before I actually attach my heart into that floral foam, I am going to embellish it. So I am using this beaded garland. I did get this at Hobby Lobby. I have seen these types of garlands at Dollar Tree, but I don't know if I've ever seen them in these colors. But you can look and see what you can find. You could use just some of the floral stems that are the berries. You can use various things to embellish this, but I'm going to wrap this around the twine heart, and I'm just going to wrap it kind of loosely. Then I'm going to snip off some of these little pink flowers, and I'm going to kind of weave these into that berry garland, and I'm doing them a little bit sparse. That's the look that I'm going for. You can add as few or as many as you want. And I put them in kind of going up one side, and then I started again at the bottom and went up the other side, and I just added a little bit of hot glue to secure them as I went, but I wanted them to look like they were kind of growing up from the bottom. So that's why I didn't just go all the way around the heart in one direction, because I didn't want the flowers to look like they were growing down on one side. So as you can see, I am recycling a piece of floral foam, but I used a stick to poke down in the center of the foam, and then I am going to add some hot glue into that hole and then push my heart down inside the hole, and then I am going to hold it in place until it sets and actually add a little bit more hot glue on the sides just to make sure it is good and secure. Then I'm going to take some of this green moss, and I got this at Walmart. You can get all kinds of moss at Dollar Tree. This is just a little bit of a different texture. It's a green Spanish moss, so I liked it, but you can use any moss for this. And I'm going to add a little hot glue to the top of the floral foam and just press my moss on top of that. So I think it's looking pretty good, but one final touch, I'm going to add a little bit of jute twine around the white rim of the pot. And I just wrapped this twine around a couple of times and then tied a real simple bow, and just secured it with a little bit of hot glue. So super easy, and it just finishes this off and ties it all together. This would be a great project to do for Valentine's, and then you could leave it out all spring as well. For this next DIY, I am using this 3.5 by 5 inch picture frame from Dollar Tree, of course, and one of these glass candlesticks. I'm also going to be using a couple of these fabric roses, and these are actually burlap roses. These are new at Dollar Tree. And so are these laser cut or die cut little wooden embellishments, and these are so cool. I love these. They have them in a ton of different styles, so be watching for these. For my first step, I'm going to be spray painting this candlestick. I'm using a satin heirloom white, just because that's what I had on hand. And while my spray paint is drying, I am going to prepare my frame and get it all embellished. So I'm just removing the stickers. I'm going to remove the stand off of the back, and this is on there pretty good, but I was able to pull the stand off easily, and then I just had to use a pair of pliers to get that metal piece off of the back that was holding it on. So I'm going to open up the frame and remove that paper and clean the glass, and I printed off this little Hello Spring sign that I created on canva.com. I will put the link to that in the description box so that you can go there. They do have a free version of their site that you can use to create different graphics, and so I created this and I just printed it off on my printer, and I'm going to put that inside my frame. Next, I'm going to add a couple of these burlap roses to the top corner of my frame, and they do stand a little bit tall, and so I felt like they were a little bit awkward, and so I ended up kind of smashing them down and kind of roughing them up a little bit to make them a little shorter, and just to make them look, I don't know, a little bit more realistic, I guess. I don't know. I do really like these burlap roses though. They're perfect for farmhouse projects. And I have seen in some Dollar Tree hauls where they do carry just the natural burlap color and also a red burlap color, but my store only had the pink ones. And I'm gluing one of those butterflies in the bottom corner, and I love how that looks. So now that the spray paint is dry on my candlestick, I don't really like the finish of it. That satin finish is too shiny, so I'm taking some chalk paint and going over the top of that. And I have found when you're painting things like plastic or glass, sometimes if you spray paint them, that will adhere to it better than just if you just use chalk paint or acrylic paint. And so by putting the spray paint down first, then that gives my chalk paint something to attach to better. And then I'm going to take some of my brown paint and dry brush on this just to give it that aged look. I decided I needed to put a little bit of something down inside the top of the candlestick, so I'm taking a little bit of brown Spanish moss and just poking it down inside there. You can get this type of moss at Dollar Tree. It doesn't take very much, so I'm just pushing that down inside there. You don't want to cover up the rim of the candlestick because we need that to glue our picture frame to. And that is the next step. So I am going to use a little bit of E6000 as well as a little bit of hot glue and attach my picture frame to the top of the candlestick. And you do have to hold this in place until the hot glue sets up because it wants to tip over. So you just got to make sure that it is secure before you let go. And to finish this one off, I'm going to wrap some twine around it as well. I'm going to wrap it about 3 times around the center of the candlestick, tie a simple little bow, and that finishes it off. And I love this. I am so happy with how this turned out. For this last project, I'm going to be using these spring felt coasters. These are also new at Dollar Tree this year, and I think they are really fun. I will also be using 6 of the large paint stirring sticks. These are called 5-gallon stir sticks. I got these at Walmart in a 3-pack for a little over $1. You can get them at all home improvement stores. And then I'm also using this little chalkboard sign. I'm repurposing it from a different project that it already has said welcome spring, so it's perfect. I'm going to take 5 of the stir sticks and I'm going to measure 15 inches from the narrow end of the stick and mark all 5 of these sticks so that I can cut them off. For the last stir stick, I'm going to measure 9 inches and mark that, and then another 9 or at 18 inches and mark that, because I'll be cutting this, basically cutting the end off and then cutting that stick in half. I'm going to use my miter box and saw to cut these sticks, and this is a great tool. I'll link it in the description box below if you're interested in it, but it's great for crafting. I know I always get comments about how there's a lip on the bottom of the miter box so that you can put it on the edge of like a desk or a counter to help hold it steady. But guys, there is no lip on the edge of my miter box on the bottom, and so I use this shelf liner from Dollar Tree to put under it. It helps keep it from sliding around, and so that's one reason I don't put it on the edge of my desk, and the other reason is so that it is in the center of my frame for filming. But I appreciate all your comments, so I love to hear your suggestions and your tips, so keep them coming. Once I have all my pieces cut, I'm going to sand down those cut edges so that they're nice and smooth. And now I'm going to paint all of my stir sticks with the ivory chalk paint, and I actually did all 5 of the long sticks and 1 of the shorter sticks that goes across the bottom, and then I ended up not painting the bottom of most of those sticks because I wanted the glue to adhere well. And so I'm just using the hot glue to glue 1 on each end and make sure the bottom is flush. Then I'm going to space the other 3 in between. And if you haven't figured it out yet, we're making a picket fence. And so once those are spaced and neat, and I just eyeball this. I am not like one of those crafters that measures everything. I just eyeball it. I happen to think a little bit of imperfection is what makes handmade crafts so great. But if you are a perfectionist, there is nothing wrong with that. Go ahead and get out your tape measure and measure away. So now I'm going to put my other cross piece on across the top, but I'm going to actually put it behind the picket fence, pickets, I guess that's what you call them. And I didn't paint this one because I knew I'd only need to paint where it shows through on the front. So I am measuring down about 4 inches or so, and I'm going to do that on both sides just because I want to have this be straight. So You know, I just talked about not measuring stuff, and here I am measuring stuff, but there are some things that it is important to measure. And then I'm going to attach that to each of the pickets with my hot glue, and that will make this fence nice and sturdy. Then I'm going to come in with some of the ivory chalk paint and just fill in those little sections that are showing through the pickets. And if you know me, of course you know I'm going to add some dry brushing. So I'm using my brown paint again, and I'm going to dry brush this just to give it that aged look. So these felt coasters come in a package of 4, and they're just tied together with this ribbon that makes them look really cute in the package. So I'm going to remove that ribbon so that I can take the coasters apart. And at first I was thinking I was just going to be using one of the coasters for each of the flowers, but it seemed really flat and it didn't have enough dimension. So I was trying to figure out kind of how to make that look a little bit more three-dimensional, and so I decided I'm going to use 2 of each color of the flowers, and then I'm going to glue them together with a little bit of hot glue. So as I was arranging these, I got the idea to, you guessed it, dry brush on these flowers. And so I wanted to make them look a little bit more farmhouse and mute the color just a little bit. I love the colors, but I was going for more of a farmhouse vibe, so I added a little bit of the ivory chalk paint to these flowers. Then I'm attaching them to my picket fence with some hot glue. And then I'm going to hang my little welcome spring sign over the top of one of the pickets. And I didn't want it to hang just straight, which is what it wanted to do, so I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the back of that just to hold it at an angle. And then I'm going to take a little bit of thicker jute twine and tie a knot in one end. Going to glue that to the back side of my sign on one side, and then figure out how long I want this hanger to be, tie a knot on the other end, glue it on the other side, and then my sign is all finished. I hope you enjoyed these 5 easy, budget-friendly Dollar Tree spring DIYs. I had so much fun creating them. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel to grow, so hit that like button. I would love for you to leave me a comment and let me know which project was your favorite. And remember, if you visit all of the videos in the hop and leave a comment on all of the videos, then you will be entered into that drawing for the $100 Amazon gift card that we will be drawing for on February 10th. So make sure you check out that link in my description box to the next person's video for a lot more spring DIY inspiration. Thank you for watching. I hope you all have a blessed day.